started? Good evening, everybody. My name is Roger Copeland. I'm a captain with the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. I am the Bureau Chief for the Millbrae Police Bureau. And we're here tonight to have a community town hall meeting to discuss the residential burglaries in the city of Millbrae. I understand and I know, and those of you who have been to city council meetings know that this is a major concern of the city. It's a concern of mine as the chief of this police department here in Millbrae. And it's something that we're going to try to work together to try to make this problem go away. I have a great support team here with me tonight that we're going to go through presentations and show you some of the things that we've done, some of the things that we're working on, and some of the things that we need you to help us with, and we're going to address those issues. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce everybody, but before I do that, I'd like to thank Millbrae Community Television for broadcasting this live, and it will also be available on videotape if people can watch it here tonight. So thank you for being here tonight. On my far left over here, it's Detective Lieutenant Scott Kirkpatrick. He's in charge of our detective bureau. And a Millbrae Police Detective is Detective Joe Kane. And this is our crime analyst, Alice Jacoby. Pardon me, did I spell that or pronounce it right? And we have from the Northern California Regional Intelligence Center, Mr. Rodriguez for the license plate readers that we're going to talk about for technology. And this is Deputy Dan Young, who's a school resource community police officer, and Sergeant Mark Myers from our crime suppression unit. As we get going here, we're going to have some presentations here for you. As I said, we will have a discussion at the end of the presentation, so if you do have any questions, see if you can hold those until the end of our presentation, so we'll be glad to engage in a conversation with you about that. The purpose of this meeting tonight is actually to have that conversation. We want to hear what your concerns are, and we're going to do the best that we can to address them here tonight, and moving forward, have a good plan to help make your community safer. So with that, I'm actually going to start with our agenda. And first on the agenda is Allison Jacoby, and she's going to provide some crime statistics for you.
Thank you, Chief, for asking me to speak tonight. Is the projector on? Yeah.
So, Chief, it's up to the Arctic.
Great. Again, I'm Allison Jacoby. I'm the lead crime analyst for the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office and the Northern California Regional Intelligence Center. I work with 4 other analysts on the priority crimes team, and what we do is we analyze data to determine environmental, temporal, spatial, and demographic variables that contribute to criminal activity. So we're really digging into criminal incident information. And the goal of our work and our process is to contribute to intelligence-led policing initiatives where we get on the front end of criminal activity and provide law enforcement with the information they need to allocate resources most effectively. So our affiliation with the Northern California Regional Intelligence Center provides us with access to criminal incident information, intelligence databases, and technology to analyze criminal activity on a broader scale, countywide, regional, and so we also have the opportunity to dig into specific issues for individual jurisdictions, as we've been called upon to do tonight for Millbrae. So my goal for this evening is to provide you guys with a perspective on criminal activity, but specifically property crime, as that's what incited this meeting. So I'm going to focus on residential burglaries and vehicle burglaries, which you can see are actually among the top offenses in this jurisdiction. They're also up there, if you can't see, mental evaluations and general information cases. So it's kind of interesting to see that law enforcement resources are being drawn in two completely different directions: property crime and then public awareness and assistance. Next slide, please. This is just a temporal representation that residential burglary activity, this is January to present, so about 7 months. There is a temporal aspect, and it does fluctuate. Whether that's seasonality, we see an increase during Christmas sometimes. Also during the summer, when offenders are more likely to conduct pre-operational surveillance of the area to really get on the ground and see which homes they'd like to target before they do, to do that research. And so you'll notice the two peaks, they're not completely synchronous. However, we're on the way down from one right now. So to us, this isn't particularly alarming considering that the peak was in line with the one from the year before. So year on year, we're standing okay. Slide, please. This is just another way to slice the data. And so red on the top is 2016 and blue is 2015. And you do see, like rightly so, that there is a concern over residential burglary activity. However, year to date, there's only a 12 incident difference. So I also want to draw your attention to the bottom chart, which is county-wide information. So every jurisdiction in San Mateo County, also, this is what they experienced since January of this year. And you'll notice that the Millbrae peak actually corresponds to the late February and March peak. So I'm using this to demonstrate that Millbrae isn't specifically being targeted. It's a county-wide issue. We've been working with San Carlos, Portola Valley, and Icaro Highlands in San Mateo. Everyone is experiencing this problem, and we're committed to finding resolution. Slide. Another type of property crime that often goes hand in hand with residential burglary is vehicle burglary, because the offender is entering locked property or a dwelling. And so I wanted to illustrate that vehicle burglary activity for this year, in the red, is actually down. So you could hypothesize either way. Well, maybe these vehicle burglary offenders are moving on toward residential burglary. However, we're not actually seeing that, because this is the countywide trend down here, and it was up in May, and Millbrae really wasn't. So we're not tracking on that trend right now. So that's good news, technically. All right. I wanted to look at neighboring jurisdictions just to provide you guys with some perspective. And probably the closest proxy for Millbrae would be Burlingame, not only because it's adjacent, but because the population is similar, the residential communities. And so Millbrae's in red, it's the first one. And you'll notice the other jurisdictions I chose were Hillsborough, San Bruno, South City, and San Mateo. So really all in this area. They're not perfect comparisons. However, you see that Millbrae really isn't out of range for the neighboring jurisdictions. In fact, Hillsborough may have some more serious problems than you guys. Slide, please. All right, this is one of my favorite maps, and it's actually on display in the back as well, because it shows that there is a geographic component to this criminal activity or this behavior of residential burglary. So the blue dots are vehicle burglaries, and they're actually concentrated down by El Camino. And the possible explanation for that is because vehicle burglary offenders typically steal smaller ticket items, and they can carry them in their hands, so they can use public transportation to get to these locations. And we know that public transportation is really accessible along El Camino. The other interesting part about vehicle burglary in Millbrae is In-N-Out Burger. 11 Rollins Road is a hot spot for vehicle burglary because offenders know that vehicles coming to and from the airport are probably going to have luggage in there, and they often stop in that little quick stop and rest area. So that's an interesting geographic component. And then once you move up toward the Millbrae Hills, you see the residential burglaries, which are the red dots. actually become more prevalent. And the idea there is that residential burglars, as offenders, could be looking for larger ticket items, televisions, things they can't take on the bus with them. So for those types of actions, they would need their own vehicle. This corresponds to the fact that the hills are closer to 280, so there's better egress to get away. In terms of the shared characteristics of the residential burglaries that you guys have seen from January to present, the most common day of the week is Friday. The most common window of time is noon to 4 p.m. And the most common MO, or method of entry, is the rear door window smash or the rear slider window smash. Another interesting component or characteristic that is common among these burglaries is that they're all ransacks. To us as analysts, a ransack means that the offender is not familiar with the home, they didn't know what they were looking for, they probably haven't been in your house before. So that's interesting if you consider the coordinated aspect of burglary activity. Everyone always wonders, well, is it a crew? Is it an organized enterprise? And Sergeant Myers will talk about this later in some of the work they've done to get those crews. However, what we're seeing is more incidents with lower value theft or lower value of items stolen. Typically with coordinated efforts, you see an increase, like they'll get a really big haul, a lot of money or items that they can pawn, and then you'll see activity wane, which may be what we are experiencing right now in the lull. However, we're actually seeing more incidents rather than higher ticket items. So they're not getting huge amounts of money. They're taking jewelry, collectibles, cash. It's not often in the tens of thousands of dollars. Often it's less than 5,000. So, can we move to next slide? So moving on from the Millbrae-centered point of view, I did want to provide a county-wide perspective of residential burglary activity. And again, it shows that Millbrae is not specifically being targeted. This is actually on the back as well. You'll see the hotspot right now is in Hillsborough. But what we've seen since December, really, is that the hotspots are moving up and down 280. And for a while, they were pushed out toward the coast, but they seem to be moving up and down. And our hypothesis, or potential explanation for that, is that offenders are targeting the county as a whole for its affluence, because they know that it's residential and there are high-value items in these homes. So offenders will be coming in from 92, from the East Bay, from the South Bay, or San Francisco as well, and then using their own vehicles, perhaps stolen vehicles, to get out of the area quickly. So that's all I have from an analytic perspective. I really do enjoy digging into the data to find these commonalities, and I want to assure you all that all of our analytic tradecraft and resources are being devoted to this issue from multiple jurisdictions, but specifically to Millbrae. And I'm happy to take any questions at the end.
Good evening, and thank you for taking time out of your day to come here and support local law enforcement. My name is Brian Rodriguez. I'm an employee of the San Mateo Sheriff's Office assigned to the Northern California Regional Intelligence Center, where I manage the work that we do regionally with the technology known as automated license plate readers, or ALPR. ALPR is a platform that's really seen a lot of growth here over the past 2 or 3 years in the Bay Area, particularly down in the peninsula. Daly City, Redwood City, San Mateo PD, and the Sheriff's Office all utilize this technology to some degree to augment the capabilities of their sworn staff. What is ALPR? So you can think about it like a camera, but it's not...
Hold the mic closer.
I can't hear.
Can't hear you.
Mic check? There we go. So automated license plate readers, or ALPR, kind of works differently than a video camera in that it's not continuously recording video, but rather it's looking, and when it sees something that looks like a license plate, it takes a picture and records that image. And then from the picture, it attempts to, using optical character recognition, determine what characters are. For example, ABC123. And then two things happen. One, that information is compared in real time against what we call hot lists or hot sheets. These would be lists of stolen vehicles or an Amber Alert around a kidnapping. And then if there's a match, we can immediately notify local law enforcement, either in a vehicle, back at dispatch, of this information. They're able to verify that that data is accurate, confirm the vehicle is in fact reported as stolen, effect a stop right there, and then not only recover the stolen vehicle, but now the occupants can potentially be arrested for being in possession of a stolen vehicle. Maybe there's other stolen paraphernalia in the car, and furthermore, maybe you've prevented another crime from happening because they stole that car so that they could enter the gated community, use the garage door opener to get in and commit burglary. It's a much better turnaround than, say, just recovering the stolen car after it's been abandoned on the side of the road. You're actually getting what we call a rolling recovery, and has a lot better traction and result for law enforcement in general. Secondly, that data is retained for a period of 1 year and then made available to law enforcement for further investigative uses. A couple success stories we've had recently around that. There was an assault and burglary at a local shopping center here in San Mateo. Witnesses got the license plate of the assailants before they sped off. Dispatcher ran that plate through the LPR system. It came back with a bunch of dots. Also down here on the peninsula, radioed the neighboring agency whose jurisdiction that was in. They went to that location where the LPR suggested they might find that car, and sure enough, there it was with the assailants. They brought the victim over, she positively identified them, got her property back, and they were arrested. Just a nice, clean case right there, all wrapped up together. We also recently had a shooting up in North Bay in San Rafael, and kind of the primary suspect was thought to be out of Richmond, and using the LPR technology, we had a read that showed the suspect's vehicle moving westbound across the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge prior to the time that the shooting occurred on the same day, and then just after the time that the shooting occurred, moving back eastbound from San Rafael back over the Richmond side. So if you're able to connect that suspect to the vehicle, it doesn't necessarily mean that he committed the crime, but it's very compelling evidence that they were in the location on the date and time in question of when the incident occurred. Now obviously this collection and storage of information raises some privacy concerns, and we really want to be at the head of that and addressing it with this.
I can't hear you back here.
There's no way.
Hold the mic up.
Put it closer. Put it closer.
Up here.
So the three most common concerns that are brought up are who is using the data, what are they doing with it, and how long is the information retained for? So to answer the first two of those, any automated license plate reader data used here on the peninsula is only collected by law enforcement and only used for law enforcement purposes. These are, like I mentioned, the recovery of stolen vehicles, the following up on those Amber Alerts. We don't care how fast you drive by the camera, whether or not you came to a full and complete stop. Nothing is sold to skip tracers or repo men. It's really just to identify those vehicles of interest, to be able to locate where a vehicle might be found when it's connected to a crime. So law enforcement only, no private sector access to that information. It is retained for up to 1 year, and that's done in accordance with the Attorney General's guidelines around what are known as temporary files. Here in California, there really aren't any specific laws limiting how long data is retained or what it's used for, but just because we have that freedom doesn't mean we want to keep data forever or do things with it that might be perversely received by the local civilians, and so that's sort of our compromise along with the privacy-minded people of how it can both support law enforcement without being too much of a concern for the local citizens. I can take one or two questions now. I can rewind if somebody missed something, or we can move on to the second question.
Where and how are these cameras located?
So within Millbrae, there is not a deployment yet, and if that were to happen, that would be something decided by Captain Copeland and local law enforcement. In general, you'll see them either mounted on a patrol car or deployed strategically at certain fixed locations, like an ingress or egress point to a certain neighborhood or a freeway, kind of similar to the way you would maybe put a camera on your front door or at the entrance to an area to see who's coming.
Question?
The data that you keep for over a year, does your tooling allow for identifying some type of patterns? An outer area license plate that continually comes back, cruises around, leaves, comes back, cruises around. Is that in tooling available to you if you had to investigate something after the fact?
So, you began your question with data that's retained over here. I just want to clarify that nothing is retained over here. Everything's
No, but up to a year, yes,
Of course.
thank you.
So there's very limited kind of built-in pattern matching or analytics there within the platforms. Of course, they are getting more mature over time, and we may see some of that with canvassing a certain area or a vehicle that was across the street from a bunch of residential burglaries or commercial burglaries. But really, that's where we want to leverage the analytic capabilities of Allison and her team, how they can use the data based on the crime and maybe find those needles in the haystack that are of most value. This one will go to Sergeant Myers.
All right, if I lower this thing, yell at me. It's all right. My name is Mark Myers. I'm the sergeant for the Sheriff's Office Crime Suppression Unit. Myself and I have 3 detectives, and our primary focus is street-level enforcement of gangs, property crimes, drugs, prostitution. Just real quick, who knows what Prop 47 is, or has heard of it? Okay, I'm just going to cover it just real quick. Just from the street, this is what we see the change in. Back in 2014, the laws changed, and what were felonies before were now made misdemeanors, and a lot of dollar amounts changed. And how that has impacted property crime is when we catch people with stolen property, unless it's over $950, it's a misdemeanor, which means it's a ticket. So all the values that used to be $450, if I caught someone and they had a piece of stolen property that was $450, it was a felony, and they went to jail, which would result in probation and stuff like that, and they were off the street. Now they get a ticket, and then we release them, and they're back out in the city. Bad checks, stolen property, shoplifting. One of the ones I feel that's real important is possession of controlled substances. Just not marijuana, methamphetamine, crack cocaine, PCP, all drugs now are misdemeanors for simple possession. Yeah. So in the past, if I stopped a guy who I knew was a burglar or had a history of it and he had a bag of methamphetamine on him, he would go to jail. It was a felony. Now he gets a ticket. So that, in my opinion, and I think a lot of law enforcement has had a big impact, because these people that used to go get into the court system, they would get treatment because they'd be locked up and they get sober, are now just being released back on the streets with a ticket, and a lot of times they don't go to court and they're out doing the same crimes the next day. So that happened in 2014. There's a few real narrow chances when Prop 40 doesn't apply. It's if you've been convicted of a prior violent felony such as rape, murder, or child molestation, so that doesn't apply to any of them. But that was some of the impact on the law. Talking with the criminals, like I said, they get a ticket instead of going to jail. One of the main things is it's no big deal. You just give me a ticket, so what's the ramification? If I get caught with stolen property, there's really no punishment. You're just going to give me a slap on the wrist and give me a ticket. Also, like they fail to appear in court a lot of times. I've had a few guys actually tell me, hey, I liked it better when you took me to jail because I can't remember all my court dates now. So it's not uncommon for us to deal with people that when we arrest them and we search their wallet or their pocket, they got 5 or 6 citations for either drug possession, shoplifting, stuff like that. So that's kind of some of the problems we're dealing with. How we're fighting it is, in the county we have what's called the BEST detail, or it's the Burglary Enforcement Suppression Team. And that's made up of all the agencies in the county. Usually once a month we all get together, wear plain clothes and drive around in regular cars, and we just drive around the residential neighborhoods looking for people that either don't belong there or suspicious or running plates, or just basically driving around the neighborhoods. We also, a lot of media, Facebook. We send out the SMC alerts when there's been a burglar spotted in the area, like you get the mountain lion sightings, we send those out for the burglars. We also are setting up a Pinterest account, because what we found is when we find these guys with, we'll go sometimes and they have a whole bag full of jewelry. And we know it's stolen, but there's no way we can prove it's stolen. So what we'll do is we'll take pictures of this and then put it on a Pinterest account, so y'all can go and look it up and go, hey, that's, grandma, whoever's ring, that got stolen out of my house. So what we find is with a lot of the property crime is it's difficult to identify stolen property, because a lot of it is jewelry. A lot of the stuff is They steal jewelry, they go to San Jose and elsewhere and either melt it down for gold or they just pay in cash. So that's a big problem we have, is identifying the stolen property. We probably have several hundred pounds of jewelry that we just cannot identify. We know it's stolen, but unfortunately, people don't take pictures of their property or their jewelry or stuff like that, so it's very difficult for us to identify a ring or a necklace or something like that as being stolen when we find these guys with it. We also do the gang task force, which I'm in right now, and that's all summer long, so we go out and we do probation searches on all the people that are on probation, whether it's for gangs, drugs, or whatever. So we'll go through and do these searches in their house and we'll find stolen property and work the investigation backwards with that. You know, we'll find a driver's license in someone's wallet that we know doesn't live there. We'll call them back. They go, hey, my car got broken into 2 months ago, and that's how we can kind of work the case backwards. We also have a collaboration of different street crimes teams. Our county team, there's a Daly City team, a Redwood City team, and what we'll do is we'll work and we'll share information as far as burglary rings that are coming from out of the county into our county. About 2 months ago, about 3 months ago, there was a rash of burglaries in San Carlos, and I believe a couple were linked up here in Millbrae, and it was from a burglary crew out of the East Bay, and it was probably about, the crew consisted of about 20 people, and they were all from the East Bay area, and their day would start as they go out to the peninsula or other nice areas, and they basically, like they said, go break the rear slider, go and steal your property, and then go back out. So unless you caught them coming and going, that was pretty much it. So luckily, I think Fremont PD was able to find a guy, and through an investigation tracked him as he actually went to go to San Carlos to do a residential burglary. He actually did the burglary. They were able to follow him back, stop him, and then that resulted in this whole ring of people being identified. Some of the recent trends we're finding out, the bad guys aren't driving like, jalopies anymore. We're finding that they're going out and renting Mercedes, brand new cars or rental cars to blend into the area. So when they're driving around your neighborhood, they're not driving around in a 1980s Datsun pickup. They're driving around in a 2016, SL 500 Mercedes. So you're not really going to suspect that. I encourage anyone, a lot of cars have paper plates now. We're having a big problem with paper plates where they don't put the license plate on there. And it's real difficult to track. They'll just say it was a silver Mercedes that had a dealer plate on it. And it's very hard for us to track it. So that's something to be on the lookout for, any kind of, even high-end vehicles with paper plates on them. But yeah, that's, as far as combating it, this county is very, the district attorney is very, he talks to us all the time. Any kind of burglars or anyone caught in this county, they will prosecute fully. I think you've seen something, I saw it on the news a couple weeks ago, there was talking about San Francisco and the other counties, but a lot of the guys we talk to that are from the city, they don't want to get arrested in this county. So this county does do a good job when they are caught at punishing them and making them held accountable. But there's just, do you want me to talk about some of the, just some of the things you can do as far as property and helping us identify it. Like a permanent marker, mark all your TVs, anything of value in your house. Just go around and mark it, put your driver's license number on there, put your name on there. Many times we go to these houses, the guy's on probation, he's got an 80-inch TV, or he's got 3 of them. And it's not his TV, but there's nothing we can do. So anything of value in your house, either write the serial number down, take a picture, or take one of those permanent markers and write your driver's license number on it. That way, if I go into the guy's house and I can see there's a driver's license number on the back, I can run that on the radio, find out who it belongs to, call you back and go, hey, what happened? They go, yeah, I got my house burglarized and my TV got stolen. And then we can make an arrest. Trying to think. The sliders are getting hit a lot in the rear of the houses. There's several, I think, filaments you can put on them. They're relatively cheap. And basically, what they'll do is they'll come in the back and they'll take a lawn chair if you have it in your back and they'll just throw it through the window. And then they go in the house. So what these filaments do is it's basically like a shield on it. It doesn't have to be tinted, you can see through it. It looks just like regular glass, but they could stand there probably for an hour and bang on it and the glass won't break. You can go online. Just Google like a slider filament. I can't think of any specific names. I looked at it for my house though too, but there is filament. You can get tinted if you want. You can get different thicknesses, but it basically, it's like safety glass for your car. Because all our rear sliders, and even if they're double pane, they're very easy to break. And they'll just throw a chair through it or a barbecue through it, and then they're in the house. One of the things that I have a safe at my house, a pretty big safe, and when I leave, we put all our valuables in there, all the rings, any kind of jewelry, any kind of birth certificates, documents, anything that is valuable to us or that a bad guy could get or you don't want someone having. All our laptops we put in there, and we just lock it up. And there's no way they're going to drag the safe out. But I think the main thing is to try and, sometimes they'll come up to the door, look in through your dining room window, and they see a laptop or they see something else. You got to just have no targets for them to see. So kind of sterilize your house, don't leave stuff out. What else? That's the main thing. The sliders, lock your stuff up, and then write some sort of identifying number on it, because that will enable us to actually work the case backwards. And then take pictures of your jewelry too if you have it.
I'm just wondering, are they getting houses where they know people aren't there, or are they breaking the window and I'm sitting in the other room?
Most commonly what they do is they go up and they ring the doorbell. And then if someone answers, they'll give you a stupid question, hey, I'm looking for Joe, and then they take off. And then that's when we get called a lot. So if you have that happen, by all means call, and call 911. What they'll do usually after that, if they ring the doorbell and no one answers, they'll go around to the side gate. So I recommend locking your gate up, even just a regular padlock or something like that. Anything to deter them, or they gotta hop it, because they're not gonna hop a fence, they'll just go to your neighbor's house or to a gate that's not locked. So anything you can do to kind of protect your house in layers. If you got a dog, I have yet to be to a house that's got burglars that had a dog. So you got a rescue dog. But they have, there's also various security systems you can get, all internet, Wi-Fi based. You can basically put it in front of your window like that and look it up on your phone. It will alert you when someone comes up your driveway. I recommend those because that's how we can identify the people. A lot of times we'll pass out flyers to all the different agencies, and we'll have a picture of a guy on someone's porch where they got doorbells now that will take a picture of you, stuff like that, or the camera. So we'll have pictures of these guys, and then we'll send them out in a big email chain to all the agencies in the Bay Area, and then someone will eventually go, hey, that's Billy Bob, and he's on probation in my county, and then that's how we work the case. Because it's very difficult to work these cases when we have no suspect info, and we have no property numbers or serial numbers to enter in the system. So anything we can get to help us work the case is very important. Go ahead, sir.
Somebody is getting a whole bunch of these misdemeanor tickets. Is there a provision in the law that you could say, well, this guy's got 12 tickets for Millbrae, 6 to Burlingame, and it's about time he does it?
I'm not sure what the number is.
But I mean, can you build a case on misdemeanors?
No, we can't stack them. It's a misdemeanor is a misdemeanor. Misdemeanor is limited to a fine and or 1 year county jail. And the problem with this, I'm not trying to lock people up and all that, but the thing, talking to people is, a lot of them are on drugs. I'd say at least 85% have an addiction problem with methamphetamine or something similar. And the only way they get treatment is unfortunately through the court system and being in jail and being ordered by a judge that, hey, you need to go to treatment. And kind of since the change in the laws happened, I've seen that. I worked in the jail when the law took effect, and there was a very drastic decrease in the number of bookings. You didn't see people coming in for drug arrest because they were being given tickets. So, yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask you, the homes that have been burglarized, did they have alarm systems?
I don't have a.
The majority of them don't have alarm systems. And one of the things to detract them as well is if you have an audible alarm system. So when they break in the back, it's cheaper than having the cameras. So if they smash a window, so the alarm goes off and it's audible, they'll run right away. So that's one of the more cost-effective ways to do it. But the majority of our homes were burglarized did not have it.
In all the alarm companies, if you call them, they will give you stickers that you can put in your windows. And again, that might force someone just to donate something.
Or even one of those plug-in, in the front, you can put like the first alarm, a stake there, and people will see that.
One more question.
Sorry. Okay. When we contacted, we were a victim of hot throttle a year ago. Okay, we lost our jewel. Who do we contact so we can go down and take a look at?
Pinterest.
not Pinterest, who do we contact down at the Bureau for that? Because I called a couple of times, and we kind of got blown off on our 459 a couple of times. So who do we contact now?
It would probably me. I can give you my card afterwards.
I'll get your card.
Yeah.
If you could address the question on the microphone.
The question posed was, who do you contact if you had a recent home burglary and you wanted some follow-up done or so, an update or on the case, who do you contact? And that would be me. I'm a detective with the Millbrae Police Department, and I handle all the crimes that are actually. I'll have my card. I'll bring my card after this. Yes. Oh, my name is Joe Kang, C-A-N-G, and my phone number is 650-259-2417. And email is jcang@smcgov.org. And I'll have a stack of cards here after our meeting too.
Okay, we're just going to get back to the agenda here real quick. This is Daniel.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Well, I'm Deputy Dan Young, and I'm assigned to the City of Millbrae specifically as a school resource officer and community policing deputy. And I'm so glad to see so much interest in the community here tonight. I'm going to talk about how you can set up a neighborhood watch program in your community and give you some safety tips about home security, personal safety, and vehicle safety. The purpose, the Neighborhood Watch Program is about resident participation and involvement in a Sheriff's Office community cooperative battle against burglaries and other neighborhood crimes. The program's primary purpose is personal and property protection for you, your family, and your neighbors. As an extension of the eyes and ears of the Sheriff's Office, your involvement can directly affect the crime rate in your neighborhood. So what we're basically saying is that without the public's help in reporting things and being our eyes and ears, it's very difficult for us as law enforcement to actually on-view a crime. You know, we drive in marked patrol cars and wear uniforms, and we often deter a number of crimes. But as a citizen, neighbor, out in the public, we really rely on the public to report suspicious activity, and we'll talk about that. Neighbors watching out for each other. Knowing your neighbor allows you to understand the patterns in your neighborhood. Who should know you better than your next door neighbor? Watch out for neighbors' children, special needs, homes and cars. What's normal and what's not. No one knows this better than you in your neighborhood or your neighbor. Be an extra set of eyes and ears for law enforcement. Your involvement and ability to quickly and accurately report suspicious activity or crime can have a great impact in the possible resolution and apprehension of the criminals who committed the crime you witnessed. So just a personal story. A couple of hours ago, my neighbor actually sent me a text message with a photo. And it was a photo of a car that was just leaving the driveway of my home. Now, my neighbor doesn't have a regular job and is often home, but we know each other fairly well. He knows what type of vehicle I drive, what my wife drives, probably the schedule of when I leave and when I come home from work. So this text message said, you know, there was a strange car which he took a picture of, including the license plate, that was in my driveway. The subject got out, walked to my doorway, spent a few minutes there, walked back to his car, sat in the car for a few minutes, and then left. You know, maybe somebody driving by might not think of that as suspicious activity, but my neighbor knows most of our friends and regular vehicles. So to him, this was very suspicious. I didn't recognize the car at all. But the same time he sent this text message, it also went to my wife. And my wife responded that she had just gotten a text that we had an Amazon Prime delivery to our home. So, perfect example of, you know, a neighbor contacting another neighbor and letting us know what's going on. So if you see anything suspicious in your neighborhood, you know, contact your neighbor or contact us. I don't know how many times as a patrol deputy I've gone out to take a crime report, and after conducted a neighborhood check and I had a neighbor say, you know, I saw something but I didn't want to bother calling. Well, please do. That's our job. You know, it may be nothing, but it gives us a reason to go out and talk to people and contact people and see what they're doing. Maybe they're from the neighborhood and maybe they're not. But please call anytime you feel that there's something not right. And we all know, everybody has that sixth sense about this person doesn't belong here or something doesn't look right. So how do we start a neighborhood watch program? We start by a neighborhood map, addresses in the neighborhood, just a list of information. How many of you are on nextdoor.com? Good number of you. So nextdoor.com is a great way of finding out what's in your neighborhood, but I suggest actually going out and meeting your neighbors personally. So hold a block party, you know, introduce yourselves to your neighbors if you don't know who they are. Share information about contact numbers. I know, I think, just about every neighbor that surrounds my house. I know their activity, they know mine, they let me know when they go on vacation, and I do the same. We all look out for each other. So regarding the Neighborhood Watch program, if anybody's interested in starting a Neighborhood Watch program in your neighborhood, I have a booklet that'll start you off on a program. Designate a block captain. We have Neighborhood Watch signs and stickers that we issue if you do have a meeting. Schedule meetings at least once a month. As I said, I'll help start you off, but you know, keep in touch with everybody and share information that's important to your immediate neighborhood. Observing. Neighbors should look out and listen for anything unusual. Someone screaming or shouting for help. That's pretty obvious. But don't rely on somebody else to call. You know, if everybody relied on somebody else, maybe nobody might call. And the more calls that we get, the better. I think that increases our response time. If we get one neighbor who calls because they heard something, you know, we'll respond. But if we get several neighbors that call and heard the same thing, I think our response time would be a little faster because there's more credibility to the situation. Someone looking into windows and parked cars. Unusual noises. Property being taken from closed businesses or from houses where no one is at home. Cars, vans, or trucks moving slowly with no apparent destination or with no lights on. Movers, activity when residents are not home. This one, Sergeant Myers talked about. Person who knocks on doors and pretends to be looking for someone who does not live in the area. This is the preferred method of operation for burglars. They would usually have a female go up to the house to knock on the door to find out if the home is occupied or not. Then she'll contact male accomplices who break into the home while the female assumes the role of the lookout. And we see that quite often. Neighbors should look out for, this one's obvious, anyone being forced into a vehicle. A stranger sitting in a car or stopping to talk to a child or elderly person. Children and elderly are more susceptible to being a victim. Abandoned cars can be dropped off. Stolen cars used to get to the neighborhood, at which point the criminal will steal a different car to leave the area. any unusual activity in businesses, alleys, isolated areas, and notorious problem spots in your neighborhood. A stranger looking into window, back, or side yards. Solicitors, people wearing utility uniforms or attire such as PG&E, cable repair, public works, claims of selling batteries, solar panels. About a year ago, we had a case in Millbrae where a person wearing a reflective vest and a hard hat approached the citizen at her home and was asked to be shown something in the backyard. He said he was from the water department and wanted to look at a pipe or something was in the backyard. So as he distracted her into the backyard, his partner went and ransacked the rest of the house while she was busy outside. So if you have any doubt about who's at your door, whether or not they're wearing a uniform, contact us. We'll come out and verify who they are.
Do you use 911 to do that, or
If it's an immediate emergency, you can use 911. It's up there. We have a non-emergency number, which is the 363-4911. And if you have a general question, there's our business line, which is 259-2300. In reporting, this is the most important part. Don't put yourself in danger to gather more information. Get what you can, but don't risk yourself or your safety at all. So a few things that, when you call 911, the public communications dispatcher will ask you a description of who you see, their age, race, sex, height, weight, hair color, clothing, anything that's distinctive that sets them apart from somebody else. Tattoos, direction of travel, mostly important for us if they see any weapons. They like to gather as much information and provide it to us as we're responding. Vehicles, they'd like to know the make, model, color, year, license plate number, direction of travel, number of occupants. These are all things that we'll look out for as we're responding. A lot of times I hear complaints about, well, you know, as we're giving all this information, nobody's coming. Well, that's not the case, because they have call takers who ask you these questions and enter it into a computer, and the dispatcher will provide us this information while they're still on the phone with you. A little safety chat about house safety, vehicle safety, and personal safety. Tips for home safety. If you don't have an alarm system, consider installing one. Even if you don't have an alarm system, you can find signs and stickers to apply to your window that say you do. Right? Anything you can do to reduce your home as being, I don't want to say target, but anything you can do to distract a burglar from deciding to pick on your home, do it. As Sergeant Myers stated, you know, a dog, locking your fences. If nobody will be home, secure all your exterior doors and windows before leaving the house. Don't keep valuables in common places where a burglar will look. Think of better hiding places. We mentioned a safe, a hidden safe. Statistics have shown that burglars will only be in the house for a few minutes before they flee. So don't make it easy for them to find your true valuables. Trim bushes, hedges that obstruct view so they don't have places to hide and people can see them. Use timers, beware of dog signs, motion lights, piece of wood for sliding doors and glass doors, which would prevent the door from being pried open. Security film we just mentioned. Locks on site, locks. Battery. Did I talk too much? use this?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Okay, let's get on with this. I use my own home as an example quite often. So I don't consider myself paranoid, but I think I have every one of these. I have a home alarm. I have a dog, not for security reasons, but I've always been a dog owner. But dogs do deter burglars. My dog will bark anytime somebody approaches our front door. Anybody. I also have a camera system, which I can view online, that provides me with alerts, inside and outside the house. So inside, or with this system, I can set it up for different areas that will send me an alert for a motion, specifically my front door. So I can see, it'll send me a text message that there's somebody at the front door, and I can pull out my phone and actually look at who's at the front door. The best part of this system is that everything is uploaded to the cloud. So if for some reason they do enter my house, steal my computer, we still have the videotape, and that's kept for up to a year. But I do pay for that service. Marking your belongings. At the Millbrae Patrol Bureau, if you come into our front office, we do have an engraver you can loan, or we can loan out to the public to mark your valuables. Insurance companies love it when you photograph or videotape your belongings, especially something that's unique. We often solve cases because somebody has a unique piece of jewelry that's different and can be identified because it's unique. Next slide. Tips for vehicle-related safety. When parked outside, keep the doors locked and windows fully closed. Don't keep anything valuable, visible, laptops. Don't put valuables inside the trunk, the parking lot, as you might be watched. I know the top of Hillcrest is a very popular jogging trail, and we have had a number of burglaries in that area. And burglars know that when people go jogging, they don't take their wallets with them. But they don't leave it on the front seat either. They leave it in the center console, they put it under the seat, or in the trunk. Same analogy as what we talked about earlier with in and out. The burglars know that people that go to in and out, maybe travelers going to the airport to grab a quick bite to eat, and they're going to have valuable luggage in the vehicle. Don't keep a garage door opener or a spare key to your home in a car you park outside regularly. If they burglarize your car and grab your garage door opener, they'll have access to your house. So when I leave on vacation, I actually unplug my garage door opener. You know, I'll leave cars in the driveway so people think, oh, I'm home. But I have one of those cars where the garage door opener is built into the rearview mirror, and you can't turn that off. So I actually unplug mine. Keep a good working flashlight in your vehicle, a spare charger for your cell phone. If you do go on vacation, we have a program called the Vacation House Check. If you call the business number for the Millbrae Patrol Bureau, we'll put you on a list. We'll ask you questions like, when are you leaving? When are you returning? Will you have lights on? Do you have any pets? Will you have somebody house sitting? And we'll make it an effort to go by your house and provide a safety check to ensure that nothing's going on in your home. And for peace of mind, it's the same reason I have a video camera. You know, I'd like to know that there's nobody in my home, in addition to my regular alarm system. Tips for personal safety. The easiest victim that criminals look for is the distracted, confused, and lost victim. Always be aware of your surroundings, especially when in an area neighborhood you are not familiar with. Don't be distracted by texting, talking on the phone, or entering information on your GPS device. I don't see a lot of younger crowds here, but Pokemon Go is a classic example of that. And you've all heard the news stories about being distracted and being on your phone. People who actually walked off cliffs or into moving traffic while looking at their phone. Remember to be an extra set of eyes and ears for law enforcement. However, your safety should be most important. So don't risk harm to yourself to obtain details if there's a likelihood you could be at risk of physical harm. Solicitors. We've all had them come to our door. Some of them may be legitimate. It's really hard to know. Criminal activities that could be associated with illegal solicitation include fraud, burglary, contractor fraud, larceny, elder abuse, sexual assault, identity theft, and homicide. In the city of Millbrae, if you're soliciting home to home, you're required to obtain a permit from the city of Millbrae. When I work here in town, we often got calls of kids going door to door to sell magazines. And every time we went out and contacted these kids, the story was, well, I didn't know we were supposed to have a permit. Or this was the first day of working this and I didn't know the rules. There was always some type of excuse. Or, I just started with this company and I'm from out of town. So if you have any doubt about who's at your door, please call us and we'll find out who they are. And we'll give them information if they're legitimate to go and get a permit, which they are required to have them with them if they're out soliciting. Almost lastly, how many of you are signed up with SMC Alert? A few of you? Okay. I'll have some information here. See me after the meeting if you're interested in the Neighborhood Watch program and hosting a meeting. I also have some information about home security. If you contact me, I will personally come out to your home and we'll walk around your home and maybe I can give you some tips about what you could do to increase security at home. And lastly, SMC Alert. It's a system that we have that you can sign up for the city of Millbrae that will give you information about this significant event here in town. The last time we used this was just last week when we had the fire at the community center. Early in the morning, we had sent out a text message or email notification that traffic was going to be interrupted in that area. Thank you for attending. If you have any questions, please email, call me, or contact the meeting after the meeting. Safety communication handles.
Especially in today's age too, right now, people are a little on edge.
A few other questions? Yes. She's asking about description of ethnicity.
I think varying range from white, Hispanic, or African American.
Yes.
So the permit for solicitors, what does it look like?
It's a piece of paper. I haven't worked patrol in the area for quite a while, but the deputies who do know it know what it looks like. It's a business license, and they're required to have it with them as they solicit.
Does that include religious organizations as well? That come knocking on your door?
No, they're a nonprofit. But again, they may be suspicious. I mean, they may be ringing your doorbell to see if you're home. So call us. That way we can have a reason to come out and identify these people and talk to them. One more? Yes.
Instead of 911, is there a local number we can call the police and emergency?
Yeah, I have that up on the board. So our business line here is the 259-2300 number. And for our county communications non-emergency number is the 363-4911.
Thank you, Deputy Young. We're going to open this up for discussion. And before we do that, I'd just like to make sure that everybody knows, if you have a question, so those who are watching on Millbrae Community Television, that they will be able to hear you. We have a microphone that we will pass around, and if you can, speak into that so everyone can hear you. All of us here are open to questions. If you have questions on the license plate reader or the analytics that Allison gave you, or any more of the crime suppression questions, so we're all open if you'd like to have any more discussion. If you do, just raise your hand, and then Detective Zone will find you.
Hello, I'm Elena Burdett. I live on Sleepy Hollow. I just like to speak in favor of the ALPRs, the automatic license plate readers. I don't feel this is going to solve the crime problem in Millbrae. I don't think it's the answer. It's not going to fix everything. But I have done a lot of reading about it, and it has discouraged property crimes like what we're concerned about in other areas in the Bay Area. And I brought some papers I'd like to share with, I know you're obviously interested, but I would like to show some information that supports that with you. In Tiburon, they cut crime by something like 35%, property crime, installing these cameras. It's because it's a deterrent. It's like having an alarm on your house. It's like having an alarm on your city. So it's not necessarily going to solve the crime. It's not going to answer every question, but I know a lot of you are concerned about having a police force. I am too. But the ALPRs are a step in the right direction and something worth considering if you haven't considered it so far. So I'm going to share this paperwork with you, and thank you.
Up here in the front.
Hi, my name is Brittany. I actually work for the San Francisco Police Department as a cadet, and I've conversated with a fellow officer who actually lives in Millbrae. And a concern of ours that's kind of come up is why police presence hasn't been so, I don't know, I haven't really seen it around. I do drive around a lot, and basically the only time I do see a cop car, it's empty. And I do know the purpose for that, and that's basically to deter people from running stop signs because they think, oh, there's a cop car, there must be a cop on duty. But basically, my concern is I actually haven't seen very many officers. The only time I do is just here and there, not as often as I think there should be. So I was just wondering why we haven't had as much police presence as I believe there should be.
We are doing the best that we can with getting as much visibility and high presence in the community, particularly in the residential neighborhood areas. We do have a number of marked units. This is not a large town. It's not a big place. However, when you have a handful of patrol cars, some marked, some unmarked, and you spread them out throughout the city, it does look sparse, and I will agree with you on that. I would like to assure you and let you know that we are out there. We are looking. We have brought in extra forces. I have reserve deputies. I have volunteers. I have some undercover units, and as Sergeant Myers mentioned, we're doing some other things as well that I can't really mention here in this venue, but we are actively out there. No matter what we do, we could put 10 more cops out on the street. It's not going to completely solve things. It's going to make things better, but that's the reason why Deputy Young gave the presentation that he did. It really falls back on you, the community. We really need your help. Let us know if you see something suspicious, and believe me, we're going to get out there quick, and there will be a very quick response. But that's really good observation, and we are working to improve that every day.
Hi, my name is Chris McDermott, and I've lived in Millbrae for 45 years. And the one thing that I've known to be a big problem that I've seen is not only the presence of the police, but if we could also get an increase on the traffic volunteers that could write tickets citing people that are making U-turns or parking illegally on Broadway especially on Broadway. It's such a busy street when making rights or lefts and there's cars that should be parked there. We can't really always see the pedestrians walking across. Or it just makes it frustrating when there's people illegally making U-turns and it causes a big traffic jam. And I just think that there should be an increase in writing tickets to in Millbrae.
And that is going to happen. Actually, we've just approved the 7th Amendment to our public safety contract for police services for a traffic enforcement officer, so that's going to happen. We have that as a full-time position, and we're actually starting to implement that now. It will include a motorcycle unit, but it will also include, when that motorcycle unit is not available, we'll actually have an extra patrol car out there strictly for traffic and public safety in regards to pedestrian and vehicle, because we know that that's an issue in this neighborhood. What we would like to hear from you, the community, is what are those hot spots area that you want to see patrolled, and we'll be glad to take that area.
2 comments, if I may. Robert Goschak. I have been mayor of the community 3 times over the last 15 years. And I will tell you that we used to be able to afford to put a sergeant and 2 out on the streets, except for Friday and Saturday nights when we had a sergeant and 3. And I can assure you that we're getting much better and more thorough coverage now under the contract with the county, the sheriff's department, than we were able to do before. Also very pleased to hear that the council has approved hiring one more officer. But shifting gears, on the license plate reader concept, I think there are very likely very divisive opinions about this. We know that it can be a very effective tool against crime, but it also raises some very serious issues about privacy. So I would hope and expect that this decision, if it's made, is made by the city council in public meetings, and everybody can have a chance to put out their opinions and learn all that's involved. Thank you.
Oh, okay, Dave Albright. My one thing is, how about putting a beat for getting the guys out of the patrol car for so often to walk up and down Millbrae Avenue to take care of a little nuisance crime, a broken window. You get rid of a broken window, you get rid of crime.
Can't hear you.
Anyway, get rid of, here, it's easier. Biggest thing is, have a beatman out there every so often, get the guys out of the radio car, if there's a barrier with people. That's the biggest thing, you get them out and take care of nuisance crime, and have a lot as well.
That's a good point, and that's a good question. We're going to do that. Detective Zuno, can you head up this way, about the 4th row in the center?
What is your average response rate? Because I live on a street where people like to park and kind of look at the bay, and there's been an instance where I've called the department and said, hey, there's a couple out here, looks like they're arguing and starting to get physical, but nobody ever showed up.
If we get a call of anything that's in progress and there's a need for us to get there, depending on the type of call it is and something like that, you're going to get an immediate response, and there's going to be units in Millbrae at all times. Statistically speaking, if we have a priority 1 or a certain type of crime, if it's a crime in progress, our response time is less than 4 minutes. And we have statistics to show that. I don't have it here for you tonight. I don't know what would happen in that particular situation, but that is not the usual. That typically won't happen. If it's called in to us and we know about it, we'll have units there, and usually several units there in less than 4 minutes, if not even 2 minutes.
Hi. It's on. It's already on. It's on? You can hear me? Okay. Is there any way as a citizen that we can have a website that we can go to see exactly where these crimes are committed within our city, so that we can go to our computers and pop it up? And secondly, are these crimes, you mentioned that they are near the 280 freeway, and my neighbor and I are up in the meadows, so we're near the 280 freeway. And there was a burglar in our block, and we had no clue that it went down. And it was real early in the morning. So if we had a website that you guys put out that you say burglary, blah, 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 then at least that gives us some information that we want tidy and tighter.
Just to respond to that, yes, all of this information for the Sheriff's Office is public on crimegraphics.com. If you're interested in receiving alerts for specific criminal incidents in your area, I would suggest spotcrime.com. You can set it up for just a small window like your neighborhood.
I have a question for Dan Young. You had mentioned about security film that you have your own that you pay for. What is it exactly? That you can, and it goes to the cloud, that you can go on your iPhone, laptop?
Yeah, what I was referring to is a camera system that records the video and sound.
What is it? What is one? What is the name of one?
There's several companies that offer this type of service. If you go to any of the hardware stores, online, there's quite, I'm not going to recommend one, but there are quite a few companies that provide that type of service. And it's very easy to set up. I think it took me about 10 minutes to set mine up. I use it mainly for peace of mind. I actually use it to monitor my dog at home and other things. But for security reasons, you know, it may not prevent somebody from breaking into your house,
right.
But you know, you can see what goes on in your house at any time.
I've seen that with Xfinity advertised on TV.
That's one company that offers that service, yes.
Right.
And there are quite a few others. For those that already have an alarm system, you can possibly get an upgrade to include cameras and notifications.
Have there been home invasion type burglaries, which are a completely different crime, right? When people are home?
It's not, there have been some home invasion burglars, but not the type that you would see in San Francisco or San Mateo where they go in there and tie people up. We've never had that here, not that as far as I can remember. But some burglars have come in when their people are home, and then they get scared off. And we just had one recently that it's still an active investigation that a burglar came in and broke in, and there was a 14-year-old juvenile there and scared him off, and he ran away. But as far as breaking in, tying up, you know, and stealing stuff, well, we don't have that here.
Hey, I have a question about the home security registry programs that some of the cities around here have. City of San Mateo, San Jose, San Francisco are requesting residents to register with the city that they have some home security cameras, and then law enforcement can access that registry, that database. And so I think the point is that if the police department has access to a list or a spreadsheet that shows who has footage, then if there's a crime very nearby, they could possibly get some valuable information. So I'd like to see Millbrae establish a security camera registry so that our police department can access that information when they need it.
My question is, I live at 200 Block Elder. We only have one street light on, so I'm wondering how we can implement more lighting at night as for the dogs who can't really see. I think that would be helpful.
My concern is that one time I tried to Google Millbrae locksmith, right? And I found, two Millbrae locks there. So one is the real one, the other one is the fake one. So that means there are people who pose as locksmith and they make the keys, maybe key for you, and they can enter your home without you even breaking the windows. So how can we prevent this happening?
I'm just going to follow up on that. There is fraud going on right now. If you are trying to find a local locksmith, they are stealing business addresses. So if you want to Arts Locksmith or Waltz, you really have to make sure that is the local one, and you're not getting an out-of-town locksmith that they just show up on. And this is something that the district attorney's office has been trying to
I don't know what the best advice we can give people here is, but there is a lot of fraud going on through the internet and through the phones as to locksmith services.
There is public ways to check on companies, like through the Chamber of Commerce or the Better Business Bureau, that kind of thing. That would be a start. Again, you know, one of the things we can do is respond to the community's needs. So that would be a situation where we could go check an address or something like that if there was some concern.
They're sending trucks out to houses, like she said.
Well, before you have the truck come out, we could check them out for you, or you can do those, you know, those things that are available to citizens to check on businesses to see if they're legit. You know, Better Business Bureau will have a history of businesses, how long they've been there, you know, how many complaints, that kind of thing. And I'm sure that, I'm not familiar with the Chamber of Commerce, but I'm sure the Chamber of Commerce would have information about local businesses, you know, who's here and who's not.
I have a question about the license plate readers, because it seems to me that Millbrae entrances on and off of 280 it would be very easy to install that here. I wonder how it would happen, how much it costs, how long it takes, who makes the decision, because it's very easy for us to talk about it, leave a meeting, and we don't know where to go, what happens next. And I think it's very important to have a plan.
Appreciate your comments. Senate Bill 34, which passed recently in California, requires the opportunity for public comment in this regard before the local agency moves forward completely. So there will be an opportunity to share concerns and ideas and matters along that line. Of course, would be with the police department, the sheriff's office budget, and then with City Hall determining how this factors into other costs that they have to.
That didn't really answer my question. How does it get to the city council? How does it get on the agenda? How long does all of this take? Because government can be slow. And your answer really didn't tell me how many days, how many months, how much money.
That is something that I am working with the city manager and council members and the city mayor as well. It is on our plate. We know that it's a priority. It's something that we're working on. It's not going to go away. We're going to address this issue. There is other technology available that the city manager has asked me to look into, so I am looking into that. The license plate reader, it's great technology, but it's not the only technology. And so before any decision is made, we want to make sure that the city of Millbrae gets the best technology available that's going to do the best deterrence for this crime. So we're not just going to let it slip away. We will address the issue, and I do anticipate, it sounds to me, I think, like the city will support something like that, so we will probably move forward with it. But as Brian mentioned, we're going to have to get a little bit, we need support from the city to do that. But if that's the case and the city gives us a green light, we will certainly pursue that.
I've been a Millbrae resident for 84 years. I've been in the police department in Millbrae for 55 years. Detective unit for 20 years. What Dan DeYoung is going to do, an inspector house will solve lots of burglaries and lots of crimes. He can tell you how to secure the house and what to do. But there's also alarm systems that you can put in yourself if you have any mechanical ability, and have a siren or a bell on the outside of the house, which won't cost you anything except what you have to pay for to get the equipment. And you will not have any bills for the rest of the month. And Dan and I worked together for years, and he can do one hell of a job.
Elena Simonian. I live up near Skyline. Two issues. Number one is, if we have a security camera, is there a certain resolution that we should try and attain on the system? Because I see some of these pictures on like Millbrae patch. I don't even know how you could tell if it's the gender of the person.
I'll say this, we've had other community meetings throughout the county, and this question always comes up. And without giving out specific names and brands and how much you should pay, that's up to you to decide, but technology is so advanced these days that practically anything that you purchase is going to be good. You just have to look at the lighting and the environment around you. Obviously, you need to get a camera that can pick up ambient lighting if it's dark or has the nightlight feature to it. But most technology that's out there, regardless of where you buy it from, it's all going to be good. I don't think we need to throw specific numbers at you, but
I was just talking about the resolution. I didn't need to know a brand.
Yeah.
A lot of it's based off your Wi-Fi signal. If you got a good booster or something like that, I think there's 1080 or whatever, but a lot of it has to do with the Wi-Fi signal. So maybe you got to get a booster. I got to put one in my kitchen so it boosts the signal out to the cameras that are out in front of my house. So the resolution's good.
And then my number 2 issue is traffic hotspots. One of them is Skyline in Riverton. Just the other day, a car blew through down Skyline going 45 miles an hour, not even attempting to stop. And those are just accidents waiting to happen. I don't know why we can't get a flashing stop sign for the pedestrians, or someone approaching the stop sign, like there's one on Hillsborough. Or speed bumps. I know this issue came up like 20-something years ago about speed bumps, and they said they couldn't put one in because of the fire station. But going from southbound on Skyline, the fire trucks never go in that direction. They always go down Crestview and then make the turn usually south or to the right. So they need to do something with that intersection because someone's going to get killed one of these days.
Thank you, we'll address that.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Bal'oum. We live on Lomita Street, and barely we see any police car in that area. Lately, there's a lot of crimes happening in that Lomita Hill area, and we feel like because of our proximity with San Bruno, and nobody from the police department actually around that area. And second question, do we have any information how many crimes were solved by Millbrae Police Department, or we don't, or that's not available?
Well, in regards to your first question, I think you're asking there's not enough patrol units on your particular street. Are you saying you're bordering San Bruno? All right, so do you know what the location is? What street was that? Lomita, okay, got it. All right, I'll make note of that. I'll make sure that our patrol sergeants know that we need to go all the way to the border, so we'll certainly look into that for you. And your second question was you're looking at the clearance rate or the arrest rate of burglars for the city of Millbrae. I don't have that information with me off the top of my head. I will tell you that that is actually a good question, that we are trying to make proactive efforts to deter burglars, but those who are successful and people become victims, frankly, it's hard to solve burglary crimes. The way that Detective Myers or Sergeant Myers described, when people have items stolen, it's hard to get them recovered because there's no identifying markers on them. Very, very seldom is there evidence left at the scene. And so when we have a patrol deputy that goes out onto the scene, they're going to do whatever they can to get whatever evidence there is. Unfortunately, these criminals are sophisticated and they realize that there's not a lot that we can do if there's no evidence left behind. Our detectives follow up on it, and if there's evidence and we can collect fingerprints or anything latent or anything, we're going to send it and process it. But the reality of it is that property crimes, residential burglaries are difficult just because there is such a lack of evidence.
Just to give an example, the majority of the crimes that the burglars or the suspects get caught while they're committing burglaries are not, it's probably 0.01% when a police officer or deputy is driving by and sees them breaking into the house. That's very, very rare. I've never seen that, maybe once in my whole career. But the majority of these cases are solved by Neighborhood Watch. As a matter of fact, on our the last case that we had in Burlingame Hills, which also affects Millbrae and San Carlos, where two suspects trying to break into a house there. A neighbor saw them, called us, and when the suspects left in a U-Haul truck, the neighbor basically gave a great description, and we were there to make the patrol stop, and they were arrested on drug charges. And they were brought back to that station, they were interviewed, and they admitted to a bunch of other burglaries in the area. Millbrae was one of them, San Carlos was another, and two in Burlington Hills. So basically the most important part there is to watch out for each other. You know, anything you see as suspicious, it's good. Majority of the time, when we respond, it's after the fact that happens, so it's rare that we actually catch them in the act. So to help each other out, you know, watch each other's backs and go from there.
Just to kind of dovetail on that, I'm sorry, real quick. If you're not sure whether you should call, you should call. If you're not sure if you should use 911 or the business line, use 911. Okay? It's not a problem. We're not going to be upset that we're going to consider it not an emergency because there's a new mailman and he's driving his personal car today or whatever. If you think about doing it, just do it, and we'll have a lot better success. Like you said, how many times do you even hear about cops driving by a crime in progress? It just doesn't happen that often at all. So we need everybody here, everybody sets of eyes to let us know when they see something that's not right. They don't recognize a car. That's enough to call us and say, can you check out this car? And that's how we're going to catch these people.
Louis Wong. Chief, this is the last time I'm going to talk to you, so I won't be a thorn in you. Since we met 2 months ago, May 26th, have the city council given you guys extra funding for patrols?
I haven't asked for it, frankly. I'll be honest and open with you, is that we did get an extra unit I mentioned with the traffic enforcement. That is a position that I can use for whatever I need to allocate my resources. What I've tried to do is to take whatever resources I have and I've pushed those up into the residential communities. I've reached out to our headquarters patrol, into our detective bureau with Detective Lieutenant Kirkpatrick and Sergeant Scott Myers here to say, give me whatever you have so it's not going to cost the city of Millbrae anything extra. That's part of what we're trying to do here as the Sheriff's Office, as a police provider for the city, and to give all those resources. If I were to throw extra money at this problem right now, I don't see that it would have an immediate impact, just because having one extra patrol deputy out on a particular shift, it may or may not deter somebody because it's just one extra car. Now, one extra car is a big deal, I get that, but they're still going to be out there, so we're trying to find other efforts. I've actually almost doubled the size of my patrol force in marked units and unmarked units, and also some special units up into the residential community areas, and it hasn't cost a penny more. I'm a little bit cautious about asking for more money, only because I know that could be a solution, but if that's the case, we need to look at a bigger picture, and it's going to be substantial.
Yeah, speaking of that, I guess when I wrote to Jackie Spear, she said that there is funding and it helped other cities like South San Francisco, where there's more patrol officers and more investigative officers, because Detective Gang, he can't do it by himself. I know he's got Burglaries twice, Stan here, the Gremos, there's no way he can handle all this by himself. So I think we should request for more money so we can. So now I don't have to patrol my own personal, hell and drive up in the area to catch 4 gangbangers. There's still suspicious people right now, and there's just enough burglaries. So yeah, we do need extra money. City Council, if you're listening, please help us out.
Just really quick on that. I was at a meeting last week in Jackie Spear's office, and Jackie Spear's aide is actually here tonight. I don't know if he's still here, and he actually offered that as well. So we actually are pursuing that. We're looking into that. I just don't have an immediate response to that, but it's something that we're looking at for the near future.
Hi. So you have all given really good tips for all of the people in the neighborhood as to what we can do to protect ourselves. Right now we have the licensing technology is not in place. We don't have a timeline. So what are some takeaways for you guys tonight before we walk out of this meeting to make me feel like I can sleep better?
I'm going to pass this back to Deputy Young and Sergeant Myers. I think they can give you the best safety tips here.
Yeah, as I said before, if you want to host a neighborhood watch meeting, I'll be glad to give you some information on how to do that. The whole purpose of neighborhood watch is to look out for each other.
So the question is what can we do on this side of the table? And what we can do is what we're doing right now. We're communicating with you. We're listening to your concerns, and that's really what I wanted to do, and that's what this meeting is about. It's not a one-way conversation, it's a two-way conversation. We actually have somebody here in the front row taking notes, and so just because we're not writing things down doesn't mean that we're not documenting everything. All these suggestions, all these ideas are coming our way, and I am going to follow up on all of those. And so we have our work cut out for us on this side of the table, and we're going to do that. And that's the reason why we're engaging in this conversation. So I have some things that I need to work on with this, and some good ideas have been brought forward. As I think Mr. Wong mentioned, that's a great idea, and we've already kind of started that process. We're going to continue it. So believe me, we have things on my side of the table that we're working on, but that's a good point. Thank you.
So is it true there's only one police officer for every 1,000 resident in this community? What I want to say, what I meant was that the thin blue line is as thick as it can ever want it to be, and we should give a applaud to these fine men and women. And because we all talk. So I see a lot of elderly here, and I have a grandpa who has one of those neck buttons where they press, they got a heart attack. Could we have something, maybe technology, like the police department can work with, where you can press the button, also there's like Burglaries right nearby.
What is he talking about?
Thank you.
Maybe you really didn't know.
I think he's talking about like an instant alert, hey, I'm in trouble. And I don't have it.
Excuse me, Lieutenant. So a lot of the security systems will have the ability for you to do what's called a panic button. That's kind of what he's suggesting. And you can use it for police response, you can use it for medical response. It's or anything, fire, it's a panic, you need help. I know a lot of you are asking questions as to what type of alarm should I use. If you Google things like simple to install or all-in-one security cameras, if you Google all-in-one security cameras, you'll get lists like top cameras for 2016, and then you guys can either use yourself and see what works specifically for your application. I think have a question for you.
One more long-term question. So with the building of the transit hub, there will be more people, more traffic, more transit people. So, and will this issue become bigger? And what's the police department doing to deal with that changes? Like in a year or two, when the transit hub is up and running, you're going to get a lot more people, a lot more traffic.
And then one of the things I like to address, one of the benefits that the community has is having the sheriff's office as your police force is this. Yes, there are a specific amount of officers assigned to work Millbrae. However, we all have radios. We get on the radio, we say we need extra help. We can have 20 officers, we can have a SWAT team, whatever the situation calls for, or a radio calls away. That's one of the benefits of having the sheriff's office as your police force. So don't get focused on the number. Don't get focused on, yes, there's only X amount of officers on deputies on duty, because as soon as we need extra help, we get on that radio, we'll have 10 or 20 guys on scene. So please remember that.
Thank you. And just to follow up on that, anytime that the city of Millbrae has any sort of more development, more construction, or anything of that on that line, they actually bring in all the department heads, fire, police, Department of Public Works, everybody into the community development, and they actually meet and they decide if we're going to put a certain building or structure in, how is this going to affect the infrastructure of the city? And does that mean we need more cops? Do we need more fire? Do we need more public works? What is it that we need? And before anything is approved, they have to go through and determine if it's going to create an increase in police services. That's all considered.
Hi, so what I've been hearing so far is, in order to help us feel safer, we need to watch out for each other and, potentially install alarm systems in our home, which I think we all understand. But I think the majority of us would feel safer if we also saw the police force out in the streets in higher numbers. And it was a little bit disappointing for me to hear Mr. Wong had already, asked for you to look into more funding for an additional source and that you hadn't looked into it. But now that it sounds like Jackie Spear mentioned that there's some funding available, what can we do to follow up to make sure that we get this police force increase in our community? And secondly, is there any way that we can convert the funds that were placed for a parking officer into someone that could patrol the streets? Because I think our concerns here are more about safety in the community.
Well, to answer the first part of your question, dealing with federal funding, which is what would come through Jackie Spear's office, is something that, again, I don't have it yet, and it's something that I can't just flip a switch and make it happen. There is a process involved, and it's something that Jackie Spear's office has reached out not just to the city of Millbrae, but everybody in the county, as well as San Francisco and her entire jurisdiction, that this resource is available, because again, Millbrae is not alone. So it's something that we're looking at more regionally, and Millbrae will likely be a part of that. So that is being addressed, and we're working on that. The second part of your question was, we have community service officers. Basically, they write parking tickets. There's a reason and there's a purpose why they're here. They are a different classification of an officer, and I can't take somebody like that and put them into a different position. They're basically limited on what their powers are, and it's a different classification. So I'm not able to reallocate that type of resource, and it's up to the city what they want to do with the parking enforcement. It's something that most cities have problems with. There is a parking problem here in the city of Millbrae, and it is important that we do enforce that, and that I think they do play an important role. I'd like to keep that the way it is, but I can't take those people and actually move those over into an enforcement for law enforcement.
So how do we follow up after this meeting on increasing the police force in Millbrae?
Yeah, that's something that I have to talk to with the council, the mayor, and the city manager about what those goals would be. I'd like to have a larger police force, but the reality of it is that there's only so much that we can do as far as the staffing. I can get more staffing in here, whether it be federal funding. That's not going to be a permanent solution. Whenever something like that happens, it usually has a window to it. And that's something that we will address, and it's on my plate. It will be followed up on. I will do what I can. It won't be a permanent fix, but it might be something that will help in the temporary. Just so you know, we have less than 10 minutes left, so we'll probably take 3 or 4 more questions, and then we're going to close out this meeting.
Thank you. I've been living in Millbrae about between 40 to 35. And at the time I moved in Millbrae, was very peaceful and everybody friendly. And when I just show up, and all the neighbors came to me, introduced, and we have a block meeting once a month. So we know everybody. So we never have any problem. And lately, this day, come out very quickly, everything, and we do not know each other, our neighborhood. And we do not introduce each other anymore. So I do not know my neighbor anymore. So this is, I think, big problem. So if we want to solve the problem about this, we have to know each other. And we have to do our part, not just ask the police to do everything for us. We have to do our part half, ask them to have a half. So we working together. The only way we neighborhood, and let you know the problem. That's just my suggestion, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Gino Cacha, Sleepy Hollow. Lived here most of my life, since I came here when I was 5. I have a lot of respect for the police officers that are working here in the Sheriff's Department. Thank you very much. The one stopping point I'm watching a pattern of is that asking the city to step up for more money for you guys in the police force and get, feet on the ground or K9 units to help clear these places that have been broken into faster than sending one of you guys in and maybe have more opportunity to catch the bad guy. I don't know what they are, but I think you need to use us as a resource to put the heat on the city to advance the money that it takes you to get your job done. And even watching the cycles and the graphs that she shows, you should be able to be fluid and react to these anticipated peaks so we don't have that one more person getting hurt. So use us as a resource. I thought that's what I was going to be here for. This gentleman is asking for something to walk away with. I want something to sink my teeth into. Chief Copeland needs XYZ. I'm going to go now and I'm going to call my council members and I'm going to say, give Chief Copeland XYZ because this is what he needs to get the job done. That's what we want to know.
Well, again, I appreciate the support, and extra staffing certainly can't hurt. It's something that I like to, we're definitely going to visit that. We need to do some our own analytics, which we've already done a little bit on the inside, and looking at how many more deputies on each team that we're going to have, how much money is it going to cost, whether it's federally funded or not. That's something that we need to look at, and it's something that's going to, we could talk to the city about it, we could talk to the council members, the mayor, and if that's something that they want to go down that road, I'm fully supportive of it. I have a staffing plan available. If it's something that the city is behind, we can certainly move forward with that.
Chuck Sendak, if there's been a large increase in burglaries since the passage of Prop 47, what are law enforcement agencies of the state doing to counter this bad proposition, if anything?
That's a very good question. They're trying to see if that they can balance the legislation out. There are some statewide committees that the Sheriffs and Police Association are working to see if they can work in Sacramento to see if they can balance this law out. It wasn't that long ago to where the pendulum was on the other side. We had the 3 strikes law and some other laws where we were locking up people for a long amount of time, and Proposition 47 came along, the realignment for the prison reduction and to try to save some taxpayer dollars from keeping people incarcerated. On its face, it's not a bad idea. I think it's a safe schools, wasn't that a safe schools proposition if I'm not mistaken? But that's something that we're working on with legislation, and high law enforcement officials, department heads, chiefs and sheriffs are working on that with the state. I don't know what the progress is on it yet. I haven't seen anything in publication, but they're basically just trying to get that balance back out. Proposition 47 was voted in by the people of the state of California, so they're basically, this is what they asked for. They didn't necessarily expect this to be the result of it. We tried to let people know that we anticipated that this would happen. It is happening now, and we're trying to see if we can go back to the state and balance that out. But I don't have any specific updates on any pending legislation.
We have time for one more question.
Oh, I didn't ask a question.
We'll get to you.
My name is Ophelia Gould. I've lived in Millbrae for like 45 years. And I just wanted to know the follow-up for after this meeting. When should we expect to hear something? Or
It'll be continual. I mean, the question is what kind of follow-up is going to happen. I have a lot on my plate that I'm going to work on. I'm going to, I will discuss the technology with the city. I will discuss funding with my department head and also with the city to see if that's something they want to do moving forward. And at the same time, we're going to continue to follow our crime analytics, and we're also going to continue our increased enforcement efforts until this thing, until we get it completely resolved. We're going to do our very best, understanding, again, it's not just the city of Millbrae. Everybody's affected by this, and everybody has the same problem. Everybody wants the same resources, but it doesn't mean that Millbrae is going to be ignored. I'm going to make every effort that I can to continue to attack this and be as progressive as I can. It's not going to go away after tonight. I'm going to continue my efforts.
And on something that somebody said about, the San Bruno, Millbrae area to be patrolled more. Well, my house was one of the homes that somebody tried to get in when my grandchildren were asleep, so just a little concern there.
I definitely understand that. One last question over here.
Okay, I'm sorry, but toward to the data that you have collected for the past 12 months, have you break it down by ethnic group? Or should the data show a trend to a certain ethnic group?
In terms of specific ethnic groups being targeted, what we've noticed are with Asian families, typically the offenders know where Asian families store money. A lot of times it's in the kitchen.
Just to answer your question about ethnicity, like I said earlier, it ranges. It's not just one particular ethnic group that is responsible for it. However, a lot of our investigations have led to suspects in East Palo Alto and Redwood City, and also in Oakland, the East Bay. So most of our suspects that do burglaries up here, up and down the peninsula, are not from here. So it's usually groups from East Palo Alto, San Jose, Oakland, and a little bit of Redwood City, and San Francisco.
So what you say is all those residents that burglarized, basically is very spread out to all different ethnic groups?
Oh, that's what you're asking. Okay, so no, absolutely not. They don't discriminate on an ethnic group. But what I do know is that these guys are very organized. And they will send people out at nighttime, not to burglarize, but to drive by the neighborhoods and look through. Usually you can see a big screen TV playing when your windows are open. So they do their homework. They're not just coming out here blindly to go burglarize a house. They actually come around at night or during the day and do their research. That's why if you guys see anybody who's out of place or you think that doesn't belong, give us a call so that we can do an investigative stop.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close this meeting out. I just want to just briefly let everybody know that, listen, your concerns are our concerns. I've been a victim of burglary. I've been a victim of robbery. I had a gun pointed at my head when I was working in retail, going through school. I know what it's like to be a victim. We all know what it's like to be a victim. Just because I wear a badge and a uniform really doesn't make me any different than you. Your concerns are deeply concerning to me. That's why everybody is here. We're all here to support you. We'd like to make sure, again, there's not a line between you and us. I need you to work together with me, work together with us. We're going to continue to do our part. We really need you to do your part and help us. I think Deputy Young's presentation on Neighborhood Watch will go a long way in helping solve this problem. Don't make your house the easy target. Make it that's the hard target. Make them go somewhere else. And how do you do that? We have all the information right here for you. If you didn't get that information or you weren't able to be here tonight, contact the Millbrae Police Bureau at 259-2300 and come into our front reception. We will get that information for you. This problem is going to continue to be worked on. We're going to follow up after this meeting. I have a lot of work that I'm going to do, but I want to do it. That's why I'm here. And if you have any additional concerns, I will be continuing to reach out to the public. I will be at future council meetings. I don't have specific dates, but I will continue to provide updates on this issue. And I do plan on having more community meetings. It may not be in this forum, but I will be doing that. I want to make myself available to you. I want your voice to be heard, and my door will always be open if you'd like to come talk to me. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight, and you'll be hearing from us soon.